In this video, I'm going to take you through a complete from scratch tutorial developing out a simple blog using the Cursor agent. It's going to teach you how it works and how I work with it. And then I've got lots of other tutorials on the channel if you want to dig deeper into Composer. But this new agent has gone up a level again in terms of simplicity. I'm just using my voice to prompt an entire app into existence. I didn't write one line of code. I end up with a fully functioning blog using Next.js, Shadcn, and all the other cool stuff that you'd use in a modern full stack application. If you've not been paying attention, Cursor is dominating the AI development space. There's been a number of different contenders that have come out, but to be honest, I've tested them all and I'm sticking with Cursor. And now in their newest release, they've introduced an agent. So they had what was called Cursor Composer before. That's still there. So there's an agent built into that now. Let's see how it works in practice. Generation of Git commit messages is welcome. It's a pain for me to come up with deciding and remembering what I've ran in a particular commit. So these are rolling updates. You can run the update in Composer itself, but if you don't have any success with that, you can also just download the setup file here and run it, and it will update your version of Cursor without replacing it. Enough talk, let's jump in and see if we can develop something interesting. So if you want to find out what version you're currently running, just go to Help and then About, and you can see I'm running 0.43. The last one was 0.42. So this will work on Mac, on Linux, on Windows. I use a Windows machine, but I use something called WSL, which allows me to run Linux in the background. If you don't know what that is, don't worry. Cursor will actually work around the operating system that you're using. I'm going to create a new folder called Grow with AI blog, because we're going to quickly create a blog and see how that works, and click Select Folder. Again, this will work on your Mac. It'll work on the standard PowerShell for Windows, whatever way you want to develop. I just like working in WSL. And Cursor is opening up the folder and it's asking me, do I want to switch to WSL, which I do. So when I hit Control I, it now opens the Composer on the right-hand side. And so it seems to be very similar. You can add an image, set your model, add whatever context you want, and then you've got a choice between the normal agent and an agent tool. Now I'm going to use voice dictation here. I just find I move a lot faster with it. I have another video on my channel about how to 4x your development speed and your communication speed by just using voice. In this case, I'm just using Windows dictation. So I hit the Start key and H, but you can do the same on a Mac as well. I want to develop a blog website, and I'd like to use Next.js to do this. I'll be uploading the blogs as Markdown. So every time I upload a new Markdown file into a folder, I'd like to see a new blog populated. It should have a landing page which shows all the blogs listed, as in a introduction and a snippet to them, and when I click on the posts, it'll take me to the actual post. I'd like it to be designed using Shadcn components and Lucid React icons, and give me a hero section which introduces the blog. And the title of the blog is called Grow with AI. And I have the domain name letsgrowwithai.com. And ask me any other questions that you think are relevant to get this kicked off. Okay, so that's my starting input. I've dumped in a fair amount of information there. I've made sure agent is selected. So let's see how it goes. Okay, so it's talking me through everything. I'm going to create a modern Next.js application. So I'm going to use Next.js 14. That's great. Shadcn UI, Lucid React, MDX for Markdown processing. Great. TypeScript for safety. Okay, perfect. In terms of recommendations, let's go with all the ones that you've made so far. And the accent color I'd like to use is a light yellow. In Tailwind terms, it's yellow 200, I think. And yes, I'd also like to use Tailwind for this project, so add that in as well. Previously, you had to input a lot of the terminal commands yourself. You could use Control K if you want, but in order to install all the packages and move forward, you need to run them yourself. So I'm actually just going to open the terminal here just so we see what's happening. And let's reduce the size of this a little bit. So I'm going to just hit run command and let's see what happens. And you can see here it's saying it's waiting for approval. So let's run this command. Now, so it doesn't seem to be using this terminal that I have open here, but there is this option to pop out a terminal. So let's click that. And it's asking me some questions about what I need to use next. So let's just go back up here and see what else is happening. Okay, so it's asking me to actually interact with the Next.js CLI. So I'm just going to hit return here. Okay, do I want to use TurboPack? No. Would you like to customize the import alias? It's actually telling me what I need to do here. It's not giving me any further instructions on the import alias. So I'm just going to say no. I'm going to go with the defaults. So now it's installing all the dependencies. Okay, and then it's going to say, after the project is created, I'll install additional dependencies, Shadcn, Lucid React, MDX. Okay, so it seems like that's worked. Let's just check the folder. And it's got everything installed in there, which is great. Let's look at the app. Once you confirm the initial project setup is complete, I'll proceed with installing the additional dependencies to create the core components. Yes, I would like to continue. Okay, so now we're going to install these. Now, just taking a quick look through, I don't see any mention of Shadcn yet. And usually in the past, when I've been installing Shadcn, it used the older version of the documentation. So I was just watching out for that. This little yellow icon here, I'm assuming it means that, you know, this is pending and we're waiting for approval is highlighted here. So I'm just going to hit run command. Okay, so it's running through adding the packages. Now I'll note as well that the terminal that had popped open before, this is not where the activity is being carried out. If I want to see what's happening, I presume I hit pop out terminal as well, and a new instance of the terminal is opened where I can see everything that's going on. So one little gotcha here I've seen as an error is when installing Shadcn using Cursor, it's still using the old version of installing it, and this can cause some errors. What you want is just Shadcn. So what I normally would do is I would add in context here and I'd add the latest documentation, or in my Cursor rules file, you can have in specific instructions to tell you where Shadcn is located. So I've just put in the correct command here that I got from the Shadcn documentation page. It's npx shadcn latest init, and let's submit this. So I've told it the new command for installation is this. Thank you for the correction. Let's use the updated command. Now, if you went ahead and had installed that as it was, you might get an error later in the stage. You just have to go through debugging that, but this just saves us up front. It's not a showstopper. So I'm going to run this command. So I can't actually interact with the terminal here. I do need to pop it out as a new terminal. Do I want to proceed? I click yes. I'm going to go with New York as the default style and neutral. CS variables for teamings, yes. And now you'll see that it's written our Tailwind config here. Okay, we're good. Now back over to our agent here. And it's told me what I needed to select. Sorry, I should have paid attention to the agent there. I just went ahead and I knew what I was doing. So a lot of what we've done up until now has been the boilerplate setup. So you can see now it's starting to make some changes to the files. If I click on global.css here, you'll see here's all the changes it's making. And what you see here in red is what was there before. And then the green is the suggested change. Usually if I'm working within Cursor, I just hit Control-Shift-Y or click on this and it will accept those. But I'm going to just trust the model and go with accept all. And generally that's how I work. I just keep hitting accept all. Maybe giving it a quick read if it's critical and I understand it until I run into a bug. Now, is this a dangerous way to work? Maybe. But the idea is I'm here just to create MVPs, to iterate really quickly and to test things out. And then I go back after the fact to test for security and to test for best practice. You might not have the ability to work in that way. If you're working on more advanced production code, you're going to want to actually check through each one of the iterations as you go through it. And the other thing is you'll want to learn. You can move very fast with these kind of applications and keep moving until you hit an error and then learn from the errors. Or you can decide to actually read through each one of the changes that it makes and learn exactly what that component is, how it works. Theme provider component, it's created a main page with a hero section. And you'll see all of these have started to appear here. And then we also need to install the button component from Shadcn. So first of all, I'm just going to accept all of these changes. You can see the modifications have happened here and they're indicated red because they haven't been committed yet to the repository. And then we're also going to install the button component to Shadcn. Now, again, the thing that I love about Composer and also Composer Agent is it actually has the ability to create directories and understand your entire file structure. If you look at my earlier version on Composer overall, you'll see that real power comes from being able to enact changes across your entire code base, which is powerful, a little bit dangerous, but mostly powerful. What's limiting about other tools is they just offer code completion within any file that you're working on. But Composer gives you this ability to make sweeping changes and enact those changes, which is really great. So what's it telling me to do now? Okay, I'm going to create this directory structure. Yes. So let's keep an eye out here for source content blog and see if that appears. So let's run the command. And yes, it has. Here we have it. And it's created this blog folder. Okay, I've set everything up. I've set up a hero section. Next, I'll create the blog list component, Markdown processing utilities, the individual blog posts, search filtering. Okay, so one thing to take a look at is these little completed changes here. So this used to appear over here on the left-hand side in the larger component window, but now it's happening down below. And this is good just to keep an eye on so you know what files have been affected, and you can reapply changes and go back to various different checkpoints. So one great feature you have to be able to roll back is this checkout button here. So once it completes a certain round of code changes, you'll be offered this ability to check out. So if after all these changes are made here, there's a lot of bugs and it changes the file structure in a way and I don't like, I can automatically go back and hit checkout. The way you should probably be doing this is constantly adding, staging, and committing your changes. So once you've made some changes using the Composer and you see that everything's working okay, add in, exactly what those changes are. So let's have an example here where I'm going to stage all the changes that were made. And then I'm going to click this button here to generate a commit message. So usually what you're doing with a commit message is describing all the changes and things that happened since you last committed. So we've done a lot here before we've made our first commit. So it's giving me add configuration files, introduce components. This is super. It's giving me a breakdown of everything that I've done. Usually I have these one-line commits that really don't share all the information, but this is great for somebody later on, or even for myself to understand what happened in a particular jump of code. Now, this is quite a long commit message. This is what happens when you've done a big installation and infrastructure change. Usually what happens is you're making more micro adjustments to your code and then committing those. So I'm assuming we'll have smaller commit messages that are easier to understand. But I'm just going to go ahead and hit commit for now. Okay, so going back here, it's actually jumped ahead and it's saying, okay, I've set everything up. And next we're going to create the blog list component and all these other things, but we haven't actually tested it yet. So let's just see what state it's in right now and see if this is runnable. So I'm going to go to my terminal here and then just make sure we're still in the right directory. Yes. And then I'm going to type, oh, this is another little feature. So maybe you don't know what you need to do here. So if I hit Control K within terminal, it gives me a terminal chat. So I could ask, how do I run this in development mode? And then I have a choice between quick question and submit. So I'm just going to hit the quick question button. So it's telling me to either use npm dev or npm run dev. So that sounds good to me. So Next.js has set up a little server, and I can visit it at this URL in my own computer. So if I hit Control and click, awesome. So this is a great start. Let's just zoom in a bit. Exploring the future of artificial intelligence together, learn, grow, and stay ahead in the AI revolution. And it's given me a little Lucid React icon. And let's just click explore articles, and then nothing is here. So maybe this page hasn't been created yet. Okay, so that's cool. Seems to be running as a starting point. Let's go back. So it's creating a utility to handle the Markdown files in the utils section. We can see everything that's been created there. Let's create a blog card for displaying the blog previews. Super. Let's install the required Shadcn components, card and badge. That seemed to be successful. And now let's, okay, I didn't get to accept all the changes yet, but hopefully that's not an issue. I think it's better to accept all changes before running the next command, because it seems to push it into the next loop. And then it's saying, let's install the remaining dependencies, yarn add next remote. So I'm going to do that. So now let's update the Tailwind config to include the typography plugin. And we see that it's generating again here. It's asked me what I like to add, search functionality, category filtering. I love the way it's making these suggestions for me. And I've seen all these file changes that have been made. So that is a ton of changes. I'm actually quite nervous. So the speed at which the agent moves and the amount of change that it applies is pretty big. And again, you need to change your approach to development. If you are a developer yourself, you're probably going to want to step back into the code and start making the changes and adding in the things that you know. And I was guilty of this at the start. What I find works best is just think like a product manager, think like a layperson in terms of developing. You're going to have a few requirements that you have at the start. Like I said, I want to work with Next.js because I'm familiar with it. But outside of that, you can use layperson terms and just chat to the model, have it carry out the changes as much as possible rather than you diving into the code. And that's where you start to slow down. I know that feels weird. I know that feels different. But this just seems to be the fastest way I've found to work with it. And then later on, you do have the ability to go in and dig into the code. But if you want to move fast and see what's possible, here's how I would work. So let's run the development server. Okay, amazing. So we have Grow with AI, exploring the future of artificial intelligence. Let's explore the articles. Where did this image come from? Okay, this is amazing. So we've got latest articles. It's using Shadcn components. One thing it doesn't have is my dark mode switch, but I'm kind of happy enough with that for now. It's added category tagging. Let's see what happens when I just click on this. It's opened up the whole image. It's given me my date, the tag, our markdown of the blog article. Okay, this is very cool. And 0 errors using the agent the first time round. Not one TypeScript error. This is, that's impressive. I mean, this changes a lot. And I'm not coming from this place where, you know, oh, I've just dipped my toes in a couple of these different code editors and I'm exclaiming, you know, oh, this is game changing and this is insane or this changes everything. I really feel like this is a big change and not many people are really understanding how big of a change it is yet, outside of maybe you're here, you're watching this video. But if you think about how long it would have taken me just like 6 months ago to step through, writing all the boilerplate, pulling out the markdown, adding all this stuff in, we're talking about hours. And that's even if I knew how to use these tools and if I was proficient. Then you're talking about months of learning like terminals, Next.js, WSL, all these different environments, everything else. Now I could have, anyone sit down with a little bit of hand holding and step through building out whole applications. And I've done this in the course of a few minutes. What now can I add to this application over the course of a week? I mean, this just changes everything in terms of software development. I completely understand there's problems with this. There's errors, there's issues, and there's a whole load of security problems that might happen as well. But you have to admit this is a huge speed increase. It's more than 10x, it's more like 100x, and I'm super excited. So I'm going to continue to play with Cursor AI. I feel like they're really leading the field so far. I'll keep an eye on the other tools that are out there. I'd love to hear how you're getting on with this in the comments. This went very smoothly for me. I'm assuming there's going to be lots more errors and issues that pop up. So if you do run into errors over the course of your experiments, you can just do something like highlight the error here, and then you can hit add to chat here, Control-Shift-L. It will add in the error that is there, and then you can just type in fix, and then Composer will give you its best attempt at fixing that. So far, I'm really impressed by Composer Agent. I didn't once have to add context of files. That's something I would have had to have done previously. Usually I have to tell it what files I'm working on or what part of the code base so it makes relevant changes. I didn't do this once. I'm wondering, is that like a new addition? But it's very welcome. If you want to understand more how to use context, how to add files, how to add documentation, you should check out my Cursor Composer video. And if you've got any questions at all, I'd love to hear more. And I'll see you in the next one.